and I don't remember all of the story of like his family and where they came from and whatnot, but I always really remember Doug with his little brother and just being like all about it. And I don't have a little brother, so like I don't know that I totally, understood or whatever, but yeah, he was quite a guy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. So what was it like playing with like John Harbaugh? Like I've heard he seems kind of like a big coach, tough guy on TV at least. I was wondering what you would think of that. Like, was he a big tough guy to like coach?
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things. There's Jim, John, and Jack. And so Jack Harbaugh is their dad, right? And he grew up. He was a coach at Stanford. I don't think I knew that. I don't think I realized that. But because of that, um, Jim Harbaugh, who played for the Bears, played for the Colts, played for Michigan, grew up at Palo Alto High School, which is literally like directly across the street from our stadium. I mean, they're El Camino Real is like a main drag that literally runs like from San Francisco all the way to LA, and El Camino Real divides Stanford Stadium from Pali High. And because Jack was coaching at Stanford at the time, Jim used to line the field, like chalk the field, like spray paint the sidelines, right? Growing up, so that part was really fun. And then John, they tried to get John to come coach at one point, right before he went to Baltimore. I forget who he was with at the time, but he came in. And if you ever want to see something really funny, there's a interview from when they played each other in the Super Bowl, and they're both sitting on stage, and John walks in and he's got looks like a coach would look like at a Super Bowl press conference, right? He's got like a suit on and a tie on. Jim sits down and he's got like dirty sweatshirt. At the time, he was really infamous for wearing just like $15 slacks, whistle around his neck, pen hanging off there. John gives this like really eloquent, "Man, this is a dream come true" intro, and Jim's just like, yeah, what he said. That's good. That's good enough. I'd heard stories about him like running conditioning with the University of San Diego players, and they have this huge thing out the back of their campus, and he was running and like literally was running, as the story went from my buddy anyway, running up this hill with the athletes, doing their off-season conditioning program with them, throwing up on himself, still running up the hill, and like that kind of defines who Jim Harbaugh is in my mind.
The Harbaughs are pretty interesting to watch on TV, and they're pretty cool in general. So, for you,
Yeah,
was football always the main focus, or did you ever like go on to other sports, and, like branch on like to other things a little bit?
yeah, man. I didn't play football until eighth grade. Played soccer until then. I was a pretty big kid. Um, kind of like one of those kids who's always the tallest in his grade school class photo or whatever. Um, and so I was heavy, and like I wasn't fat really. I mean, I was always just a big kid, but I wasn't like a beefy kid. It was just like I would have had to play with kids who were 2 and 3 years older than me. And when you're in third grade, playing with sixth graders is not, even if you're the same size as them, is not exactly a fair competition. So I played a ton of soccer, and then a ton of baseball. My intent was to play, like in high school, my intent was to play football and then play baseball in the spring and take the winter to get bigger and stronger, faster, whatever. And my freshman year, I went to a small high school for the league, but a pretty big high school. We had like 2,500 students, so like 500, 600 a class ish. Pretty much everyone else in our league was a little bit over 4,000 kids. But yeah, how big is your high school? You're in high school, right?
Yeah, there's about like 400, 300 in my class, something like that.
Yeah, so we're somewhat similar to you. Freshman year, I played on the sophomore team. We had a freshman team, a freshman B team, a sophomore team, a JV team, and a varsity team for football. And I played on the sophomore team. We went 9-0, undefeated. They called up a number of us to the varsity for the playoffs. It was pretty cool. got to do that whole experience with those guys. You know, the season was over, and I was walking in to our field house, or I was walking to go to the weight room, like the first day of the off season, because I was like, man, I want to play varsity football next year. Well, so I played inside linebacker. So basically, you know, in high school, if you're going to play middle linebacker, I knew that they weren't going to pull me up to varsity if I wasn't started. And if I was going to start at inside linebacker at a school that size, I better be pretty good. And so I was like, I just got to get in the weight room and get my speed work done. Like, I got a lot of ground to make up. And I was walking in first day, and to get to our weight room, you had to walk through the field house. And our varsity offensive line coach is also our head basketball coach. And he was like, hey, Mcandrew, come over here. I want you on this court. He just honestly, like, he wasn't being a jerk about it or anything. He just assumed that I was there for basketball tryouts. And I never wanted to play basketball. But the short story is I never picked up a baseball again. And I played 4 years of varsity basketball. And so yeah, I played basketball.
Play all these Seahawks players. Didn't you play Richard Sherman too? I'm
Yeah,
a huge Seahawks fan.
It's been good. It's been good seeing Sherman on Amazon Football. I was watching him last couple weeks on there. I didn't watch a ton of it last night, but I had it on in the background. Yeah, Sherman's awesome. My wife went to Stanford also, and she was in marketing and communications with Richard, and they were, doing projects together, whatever. And then obviously I was a teammate of his, and basically a housemate. He didn't officially live at our house, but he stayed at our house a ton. I actually don't know where he actually lived. I think he pretty much just lived at our house. But funny guy. It was interesting because maybe a lot of people didn't appreciate that, Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the 49ers at that point and had been his coach at Stanford, right? And what a lot of people also didn't realize is Sherm was a wide receiver. And he switched to DB because he didn't like playing for Harbaugh. So there was a lot packed into that moment with that coach. And we moved back a couple years later, and I saw him up at Nike World headquarters. And I was like, dude, actually, I came up behind him across the field. I saw him, and I was just walking over to him, and I just started talking. I was like, hey, man, people, and he's still facing the other direction. I was like, people in Australia were saying that you were good at football. And I was like, man, these Aussies have no idea what they're talking about. And he starts laughing, turns around, and I was like, and then I came back to the States, and people were talking about how you were really good at football. And I was like, huh. I was like, and then I saw on ESPN they were talking about how good you were, and I was like, dang, all right, well, maybe something changed. He's rolling, laughing at that point. But the crazy story, just to show how good he was literally walking across the field at Nike World headquarters that very moment to meet a guy to see the first ever Richard Sherman shoe, right? He was getting a custom shoe line launched for himself. So obviously he was pretty good. I don't know if I would do it the same if I had to do it all over again. I would tell you that just about my only claim to fame in college is that I played in every single game that I ever suited up for. So I never put on the jersey and stood on the sideline. Not freshman year, not senior year, not anywhere in between. Not for an injury. Every time I put on the jersey, I was between the lines, and that was pretty cool. Not a lot of guys can say that. After my freshman year, Buddy Stevens came to me and was like, "Hey, we really need some more defensive linemen. We've already asked these two guys, and they both told us no. Funny enough, one of them ended up playing defensive line in the NFL. And we're really hoping that you're not going to say no. So will you play defense? Will you move to defensive end for us?" And we were playing at 3-4, which basically meant that I was almost like a defensive tackle. Like I was head up on their tackle. I went from whatever I was weighing, 250 to 280 that year, just stuffing my face. Just it was horrible, man. The amount of stress I probably put on my body that year, it was insane. I wasn't just a fat piece either. I got big and strong. And then I was playing there, and then in came Harbaugh. I'm sitting at home. I'm 278 pounds in Chicago. I call Harbaugh. I'm like, hey, coach, just so you know, you got a bunch of boys who are ready to saddle up, man. Like, there were more guys in the locker room with more energy the day after our season ended, and we knew that Coach Harris was out of here. Than there's been in a long time. And that was before we knew that you were going to be our coach. Now we're even more excited. So we're having this conversation, me and Harbaugh, and he's like, and we'd never met before, we're over the phone. And he's like, cool, what position do you play? And I felt like I saw my whole career cross before my eyes. And I always had seen myself as a linebacker. And so I said, inside linebacker. And that January, I lost 32 pounds that month and was 245, and I was starting inside linebacker going into fall camp. And I finished spring ball, everything, right? Off-season training, everything. And I show up for fall camp, and mind you, at this point, this is my third year playing, right? So freshman year, I redshirted. Sophomore year, I did the big fat boy thing. It's my third year, lean, mean, ready to go rip somebody's heart out. And I show up to camp the first day. They tell me, yeah, by the way, we need you to switch over to defensive end. And I was pissed, super pissed, because I was like, hey, assholes, you could have told me that a couple months ago, because nothing has changed since spring ball, and at least then I could have tried to get bigger to compete, or something. Like, just get my technique down. I mean, anything, right? It could have been better. You just literally took that away from me. This is dumb. So I play defensive end.
Do you have a favorite play you ever did or in a game?
I have the most memorable play. It's definitely not my favorite because it wasn't a good result. But I'll never forget. I was coming off the backside, blind side at ASU. It was ASU's homecoming. Their stadium's 85,000 people. It was packed. It was hot. It was just a typical homecoming raucous crowd down there. That's I think it's called Sun Devil Stadium. And I came off the backside. They slid the protection away from me. They sent the back my way. And backs, if they're going to come try to block the defensive end, are pretty much going to cut you. So I just went up over him, just straight over him. And I reached out like this, and I grabbed whatever I could, which turned out that it was the quarterback's face mask. And it was he literally was sitting there like this, and I grabbed his face mask, and he landed face down on the ground. So he went like this, all the way up, all the way over, around, spun, and landed into the ground like this. And never have 85,000 people booed at me at one time before, but that day they did. So that was pretty memorable, pretty bad day. My favorite play all time for sure was at Notre Dame. I grew up in Chicago, so Notre Dame, Chicago boy. My dad's family's all Catholic, so Irish Catholic community. I'm Irish. Fourth down, I made a fourth down stop in the backfield. They were on the plus 40 something, right, going in, and that was pretty sick. I would beat Notre. I would lose 11 games a year if I could beat Notre Dame every single year. I think playing Oregon, number 9 at the time, in the AP and coaches poll at Eugene. It was pretty cool to I actually got voted by my teammates to be team captain that day, and so led the team out onto the field, it was pretty cool. The year before, I had been defensive scout team player of the year, so basically just service team. I wasn't playing, right? I was redshirting, and they were basically look, you worked your butt off, right? That's what you worked your butt off for work. And so I had some of the respect of my team, but I hadn't even played before, so that was cool to get that nod from everybody. And then actually, funny enough, Harbaugh showed up, he was trying to figure out who his team was, like who he had in the locker room. And this is fun, man. I should have recorded this. This would be fun. I could write. I haven't thought about these memories in a long time. He had the team vote for different, like, who's the best leader on the team, who's the best offensive player, the defensive player, whatever. And he said, who's the hardest working player on the team? And my teammates voted me as the hardest working player on the team. I was like, I'll take that, man. I'll totally take that from a group of men who are Stanford athletes, Stanford football players. That'll work.
On 2nd and 8. Marine hit right at the line of scrimmage. He will lose a yard by Tom Mcandrew.